Good evening and welcome to another episode of Transcending Veils. I am your host, D.E. Riley, and this beautiful lady sitting next to me is my partner for the evening, Alexis Reeves.
Hello, hello.
Alexis, how are you doing, dear?
Oh, I'm okay. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Good.
Like we talked about, I'm still fighting this cold. I mean, I had this cold the last time we had a podcast recording, and I'm still fighting this cold, but
Yeah.
I do work at an elementary school during the week, a few hours a day.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
I'm working in a germ factory. So, what do you expect?
Yep.
A few things I want to touch on tonight before we get into our program. Number one is Audra Moon. I've got a lot of letters and emails and texts asking, where's Audra? What happened to Audra? Did Audra leave the show? Blah, blah, blah. No, she has not left the show, guys. She is still a huge and big part of the show. She's still part of the family. She has a lot of things going on in her life, okay? She's a mom. She's a wife. She does homeschooling for her 3 kids, and all 3 of them are in school now. So she's got a lot of things going on, and she asked just for a little time off to take care of business at home, to take care of her family, and family always comes first over anything else. So yes, we, absolutely, we let her take that time off to take care of the business that she needs to take care of. That is far more important than this silly podcast. So she is still part of the family. She will be back. I miss her. Alexis misses her. We all miss her dearly and wish her the best. And can't wait till she comes back again. So there, that will answer your questions there. Also tonight we're going to touch on some future things that are coming up that are just really, really juicy that I can't wait. And my hair's blowing all over the place because I've got a fan down here by my feet, and I apologize for that. And I just washed it, and I can't do a thing with it. But tonight, guys, we're gonna do some homegrown stuff. Over the course of the last couple of years, you have heard the story of Audra Moon and the story of myself and how we got into our interest in the paranormal and how we got here today. But you've never heard this young lady's story, Alexis's story. So we are going to talk about Alexis tonight. It's her story tonight. And and how, how she got from birth to Transcending Veils, which is kind of a weird thing all in itself, But Alexis, what happened? Where did you go wrong?
Yeah, right. Which turn did I go down the wrong way? Yeah. Okay. Well, like I've been briefing you on, this is kind of a long and complicated story, so I'm going to try my very best to stay on track with this.
You got an hour. You got an hour.
Got an hour. Okay. But just to try and outline this in the proper way so it's not as confusing. So I'm going to just start at the beginning and explain what I'm going to be talking about. So I feel in my core that my father may be possessed, and it started at a very young age, and it actually started when they were building the house that I grew up in. So
now, where is this
there's
at?
a little backstory.
Where was this at?
This is in Southington, so it's local.
Southington, PA? Pennsylvania?
No, Ohio.
Ohio, okay.
Yeah, so a little tiny country town that not many people know, even just living about 15 minutes away.
I'm in Ohio, and I don't know where it's at, so you're good.
Exactly. It is actually about 15 minutes from where we're at.
Really?
So,
okay.
Yeah. So, anyways, my parents decided to build off the grid because my dad was prepping for the end of the world, all that kind of stuff. So, he had some issues to begin with. Not that I'm knocking that, because I do believe that's good to prepare for, just in case. But anyways, they ended up building off the grid, 4 mile back in the woods. And they didn't realize at the time that they were building on an Indian burial ground. And it took them 7 years. It was just the two of them. So like it was not a conventional life growing up. So we didn't have, like we had running water, but not really. You know what I mean? Like we had to pump it up from the creek and everything.
So you were like hippies.
And oh yeah, my parents are definite hippies.
Okay.
And so, and they're very spiritual and very open to all that.
Okay.
So, I wasn't born yet, and they were finishing up the house, and it's up on a hill. It's up on a really big hill, and below the hill, and that's encircles it, is a creek. And my father had gone down there, and he was standing there staring out at everything and looking up towards where the house was. He felt this very dark presence come over him suddenly, and something shoved him. And he realized in that moment they were not welcome there. But he thought, well, we're almost done. It's taken us 7 years. I'm not leaving. So the foundation of this house is built off the trees from the land, and they tarred them to keep them from falling apart. Now, that is not exactly a good thing to do if you've built on top of an Indian burial ground. And they won't come to find this out till later. So anyways, let's move forward. Things start going downhill kind of quickly. So my parents started fighting a lot again. I wasn't born yet. And every time they'd get into these horrible fights, things would fly off the walls of the house. Picture frames would go, shooting across the room. And my mother is a very logical woman. She's definitely a hippie and, just has that crazy fun spirit, but she's very logical.
Right.
And for her to actually physically witness that, she wouldn't lie about that. So things start to get even worse. My dad ends up getting into an altercation with the neighbors that were a little ways away. He went to jail because he tried to kill them. And thankfully they managed to, and
Oh, okay.
he got off.
He tried to kill the neighbors?
Yes.
Is that,
So yeah, no, like things got bad quickly.
Yeah, that's real bad. I mean,
Yeah.
okay.
So it's sort of like the Hatfield and McCoys.
Oh,
A little bit of an idea.
Okay.
So they just shoot at each other, but he made the mistake of going on their property and shooting at them.
Ah.
So he ends up getting arrested, but he ends up getting out, and he decides, oh, let's finally have a child. They're 41 years old. So for the first 4 years of my life that I can kind of remember, everything was really good. It was like magical back there. And my dad had also gotten involved in a cult at this time as well. And he was going to move us to Texas to be a part of this cult.
Okay, this cult. There's a lot of shit going on here. So
I know, that's what I'm saying.
I'm trying to slow you down so I can take it in, because this is all news to me. Okay, this cult. Okay,
yeah.
This is there's a cult encompasses so much. Okay.
Yes.
So many different areas. Now, this cult, is it a religious cult? Is it a demonic cult? Is it a suicide cult? It
was an end of the world cult.
Okay, so it's a suicide cult. An end of the world cult.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yes,
all right.
And they were called the Stell Group, and they are officially listed now as a cult.
Okay.
The leader was Richard Kininger.
All right, well,
and
Christianity was a cult when it first started, too. So you have to, take that into account also.
This is true. But yeah, he was part of the end of the world, 2000, coming in. Oh, we're all gonna die.
Oh yeah. I was there.
Yeah. So I think I was about 4 at this time, 4 or 5. I was about 5, and I remember after he came back, because he had flown to Texas, and he used to have a really long ponytail, and he always had it braided, and they made him cut it off. And when he came back, something was different. We had learned that he had gotten kicked out of the cult because he was trying to take it over. Like, there are so many layers to this.
Oh, my God.
So many layers. Yeah, so they made him cut his hair off, and then they kicked him out. So that really messed with my dad. And I noticed there was like this darkness that sort of came over, but like he got hold of it and things started to go a little bit better. But then by the time, I was 5, so I was 4 then. So the year later, I started feeling like something was watching me at all times. And I made friends with I called it the monster. And it would watch me. I could feel it watching me at all times, and like the hairs would raise up on my arms. And this is about the time I started having these horrible nightmares.
Okay, this monster was in your room, in your closet,
yes,
under your bed.
It was throughout the entire house.
Okay.
It was through the entire house.
So it just kind of followed you around
yes.
in your daily life at 5, right?
Yes.
5, okay.
Yeah, it started when I was 5, and I don't know if I need to say a trigger warning, but I started at the...
No, this is Transcending Veils. There's no trigger warning.
Okay. Okay. Well, I just want to make sure.
No.
Because I was going to talk about suicide. So,
no.
So yeah, at 5 years old, I started having these horrible nightmares, where there were these creatures, and they were so angry, and they would start choking me, and I couldn't breathe, so I'd wake up gasping for air, and I felt like something was choking me. And this progressed to the point where I was so depressed that I couldn't stop crying. And at 5 years old, I was having suicidal thoughts. And there was nothing my mom could do, my dad didn't really care, but to calm me down, because it was so hard to explain at that age, like there is something going on, and I don't know how to explain it, except that almost every night I'm having these dreams where I'm either drowning or I'm being choked by something evil. And I can't breathe, and I wake up gasping for air, my chest is on fire. And like I said, this presence started getting heavier and heavier. So I got used to it, and I tried to make friends with it so it wouldn't be so scary. So let's progress to the point where everything starts falling apart. 10 years old. My dad almost drowns. So I don't know if there was a correlation there. I don't know if there was some kind of connection, like a premonition. He got swept under the water. He had fallen into, it's hard to explain. It was like a ravine, and at the end of the ravine was a grate, to stop the water, and he got sucked up under that. And he said his life flashed before his eyes, and when he came out of that, he was a completely changed person. He started doing drugs, and he got into black magic, trying to contact the dead, and everything just completely fell apart, and this is where the real nightmare began. So, a year later, I was 11, and he had become so paranoid about things that...
You okay?
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm just trying to, all right. It all just splinters. Okay.
I know that talking about this stuff a lot of times is tough, and I appreciate you doing it.
Yeah.
So if you got to stop and catch your breath now and then, it's all right. All right.
Okay. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm just trying to get my thoughts together here. So, yeah. So he was using it this time, and it was hard to tell if it was the drugs, if it was mental illness, or if it was starting to become possessed by something, because by this point that energy in the house had gotten so heavy that it felt like something was sitting on your chest the moment you walked through the house. And, the front door would start yanking out of your hands. If I had friends over, they were terrified to stay because things would shove them. They'd hear these screaming noises in the night. And to give you an idea of the house layout, it was like a cabin, so everything was open. Open floor plan, open loft upstairs. So it wasn't like you could really hide from anything. And so he starts progressing with his issues, and he gets into black magic. He's trying to contact the dead, and I don't know if he opened a portal or what what happened. But he had become extremely paranoid that the FBI was after him, the CIA was after him. He believed that he could see where Natalie Holloway went. I don't know if you remember when that girl went missing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he started keeping a picture. He also became suddenly very, very religious. They had never been religious. They were very spiritual people. He suddenly became very religious. And he had a Bible, and he kept her picture in there. And he said that he could astral project and see where she was at. He couldn't though. That part was probably the drugs talking. But things started happening around the house. At night now, I started having sleep paralysis for the first time. And now with sleep paralysis, it's during your REM sleep, so your REM sleep. It's where your body falls asleep, but your mind doesn't. So you just feel paralyzed. But the problem was I was waking up with bruises all over me, scratch marks on me, and this is in the pitch dark that this is happening because we ran the electricity off a generator and they'd turn it off at night. So there was no light. There's no light I could turn on, nothing. So I'm just laying there feeling like I've been dunked in ice cold water every single night. And I would kind of see in the shadows these hooded figures standing around me, holding me down, and they'd be chanting in another language. And I don't know what it was. I have no idea what it was. It was so terrifying. I've never felt a fear to this day like that.
Mm-hmm.
Because you wanted to throw up, you wanted to scream, you wanted to hide. It was just like you're losing it. And then there was these creatures, and I thought I was imagining them. And so one of my friends, one of the few friends who was not afraid to come back there, told me the one time, he's like, you know, that entire property is surrounded by these weird little creatures. And I'm like, can you describe them? And he goes, yeah, they have, I know this is going to sound so cliche, but red eyes, right? Red eyes. And he's like, they're kind of like little weasel creatures. And he's like, and there's this woman dressed all in white who controls them. And I'm like, how does he know about the woman in white? Because the neighbor used to talk about how his property was haunted by a woman in white. I'm like, how does he know that? So I'm like, well, if he's seeing this and hearing this, then it's got to be true. Because I'm a very skeptical person. Like, I got to be able to see this.
Right.
And experience this. And even then I was like, this I must be having my own mental breakdown. But, yeah, no, that is not what was going on. So like I said, he starts becoming more paranoid, and he's got Natalie Holloway's picture in his Bible, and he starts having me go to church with him, and then he'd become obsessed with this young girl that worked at an ice cream store, and he believed that the same thing that happened to Natalie Holloway was going to happen to her. So, and he said that she was his reincarnated daughter. So he would have me, I was so young, I didn't really understand what I was doing was wrong. After church, he'd have me dressed in my Sunday best. He would take me to the ice cream place, and if she wasn't there, he would have me go in and get information about her. And then he found out where else she was working, and that was also at the mall. And so he'd send me into the mall to make sure she was there, because he believed that she was going to be sold into the sex trade, because she wanted to go to school to be a designer in New York. They became obsessed with that. And so from that point...
How old were you?
Yeah, question. Go ahead.
How old were you at this point?
This is all happening in a span of a year, so I'm still 11. This is near the end of that
Okay, you're
year.
11. And so...
Yeah.
Are you at all questioning what is going on here? Even, like, in your own mind? Going,
yes.
This isn't right, you know?
Yeah. Oh, no, I was starting to. Yeah, but I did it out of fear because he gets so angry.
Yeah.
So, like, my dad had anger problems, but nothing like this. And this is where the more demonic stuff starts coming out. So, another year passes. They're getting worse. He's no longer eating. And he's lost his job. And all he can focus on is the fact that the CIA's after him because he knows too much. And he has become like skin and bones at this point. And he would keep us up all hours of the night. And we weren't allowed to leave the table because my mother and I don't have any siblings, would have to sit at the dinner table with just candlelight flickering until about 4 o'clock in the morning. He would keep us up even on my school night. And he would make us rehearse lines. And, if we didn't rehearse the lines, then he'd turn in as like this mask would come over his face and his voice would drop.
Rehearse what lines? Lines to what?
The only one that I can remember now was The Color of Law. I still don't fully understand what that is, but he would make us rehearse those lines about the color of law, and you had to know the definitions to things, and then he'd quiz you on what he was saying. And mainly it was just listening to him talk about how he knew what was going on. And we just had to sit there and listen to it. And if anyone tried to get up from the table, he'd go to attack you. So it was like a whole thing.
There's a lot of endless psychobabble going on there that you were having to sit through.
Yes. And this went on for a very long time, years. And so this strange thing would happen, though. And now I know it could be adrenaline rush causing this. It's where the pupils take over the entire eye. So their eyes become black. My dad has very light blue eyes. And this would be in the middle of the day, and he'd still be raging out. And his entire eyes would go black, but his voice would drop into this weird guttural noise, and he'd start growling like an animal. And he would start saying, "I hate your guts, guts, guts," and he couldn't stop. And all of a sudden he'd go completely rigid like this, and he'd start shaking. And then he'd like come out of it and have no memory of it, none. So.
Okay, take a deep breath. Take a deep breath. Because I need to take a deep breath. Because I got a feeling this shit's getting really weird. So.
Yeah.
All right. Now, at this point, you and your mother are there. Mm-hmm. Has anything been discussed between you and her about his mental faculties at this point, and that maybe something needs to be done?
So yes, this is what I'm leading up to. Okay. So I think I was 12 or 13, so like a year and a half later, he does end up getting pink slipped because he went to his dentist office and he slipped them a piece of paper that said, "Help me, they're coming for me." They ended up pink slipping him. By this point, my mother and I had to escape because he had threatened to, the first time, threatened to kill us. And we left in the middle of the night and stayed at my best friend's house for a week. And he was stalking us. We'd see his car driving back and forth. And then finally he got pink slipped. So it turned out that he had late onset schizophrenia, very late onset, along with bipolar. And of course he was also using drugs. But I am a firm believer, after witnessing and going through this for so long, that when you weaken yourself like that, it attracts really negative energies, and they can attack. So you've got mental illness, you've got drugs, and then possibly something demonic also attacking all at once. Because like I said, it would be easy to explain this away with just that. However, there was also the things happening in the home. Like my mother and I it was mainly me being attacked. It was my friends coming over that were being attacked. It was the animals. That was probably the worst. We kept losing animals. We could not keep animals for more than like a year or two, and they would just mysteriously die on us. And then And then all around the property, so my mom had all these beautiful flowers and she kept its landscape so beautifully. Everything started dying. It was a complete circle of dead flowers and grass around the house. Um, so that was not good. That was another sign something was very wrong. But yeah, so he comes back. Oh, wait, no, no. During the time he was in the mental hospital, it felt like things like amped up without him there. So I remember I fell asleep in my parents' bed, and I had fallen asleep on his side of the bed. That night, I had sleep paralysis, but this time, I watched those weird little weasel creatures that I've been telling you about. They crawled up over the edge of the bed, and they came up, and they were on my chest, and they just started ripping into my chest and tearing it apart, and it hurt so bad, and I was screaming, but my mom didn't hear me, which is crazy because it's an open floor plan, and she was downstairs. And when I woke up, my chest was on fire. And it was a terrifying experience because once again, everything was really dark in the house. And there's just these weird creatures sitting on my chest, tearing into me. And I'm like, I've got to be going crazy. I have to be going crazy. And then when he got home, they had him on medication and he had leveled out, but the stuff in the house did not stop. Because we were hoping that, like I said, everything was just so crazy that, we're imagining this. No, no, no. It did not stop.
Now, do you personally feel that this is a demonic entity at work, or, possibly some kind of spiritual entity at work that is coming through and channeling through your father to do this to you and your mother? I mean, this is bizarre. I mean, it really is.
It is bizarre.
I'm trying to process this, and I'm going,
yeah.
How did you get to be this old? I mean, I would have just gone completely bonkers,
Well, if you knew my full story, yeah, it's a miracle. So I spoke to a shaman. I've spoken to multiple shamans, and because psychics and mediums I've talked to, they don't want to touch this. And so I finally spoke to a shaman, and they said it's something very, very old. It's very angry, and it started because they cut down the trees and tarred them and never gave thanks to the land, and that it is, yes, built on an Indian burial ground.
Mm-hmm.
And she believed that it awoke something, and then with my dad getting into trying to contact the dead, listen, he had a book on all the ways to torture a human being. And doing maybe that's why my animals were, oh God, I just made a connection. Huh. And that's why my animals kept dying. Like blood sacrifices and stuff like that. Yeah. So, but he was very obsessed with torturing humans.
Wow.
And he hadn't been like that before. And this is what I mean, like it completely changed him. So I do believe something is back there. I have caught quite a bit of footage. The one time I took a picture with my camera outside, and it was the middle of summer, but it looked like it was snowing. There were so many orbs. And I can guarantee if I go out there now, I'm going to see things like that again. And I need to give that to you.
You and I live literally, 200 yards from one another? I mean,
yeah.
Right now, I could throw a rock and hit you. As we're recording this, you're that close.
Yeah.
Why the hell haven't you given me any of this stuff yet? What, girl?
I don't know. Well, because I know. There's been a lot of.
We could do a whole series on just this. If you got to get.
I know why. I got to get you the recordings because my dad and I years later, and as an adult, we're trying to communicate with it, and it came through and even said his name. Like, there's a lot of stuff back there.
Yeah,
I could go back there and get you new footage. Right. Anyway,
you and I got to quit being so far apart, so close together, and start geting real close together and go over a lot of this stuff because this is absolutely fascinating. All right, so guys, if you're listening out there in the future, you're going to hear a lot more about this story because I'm going to dig a whole lot deeper, and she's going to hate me before we're done because I'm going to dig into things that she doesn't want me to dig into. But
That's okay.
we're going to do this. If she has photos, if she has videos, if she has recordings, I want them. I want them, Alexis. Me and you got to talk.
All right, you got it.
All right, all right.
You got it.
All right, so let's get back to your story. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No,
It's
you're
just
okay.
so
No, it's good.
So, wow. Okay. Audra and I had our stories, but now I'm going, okay, that ain't so much. You got the,
Well,
you're the one
no.
that's got the story. You should be sitting in this pain, and I need to be over here.
No, because your story was absolutely amazing, and hers as well. But anyways, okay, so yes, he gets out of the mental hospital, and things are progressing. He was good for about a year, but like I said, the energy in the house just keeps getting darker. So I'm just gonna skip ahead a little bit because, like I said, this is a very long story, and we've got half an hour. So I ended up becoming possessed.
Oh, shit.
Surprise, surprise.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, this is what I was leading up to. So,
all right.
By this point,
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Let me get ready. Hang on.
Yeah.
Sip apple juice. Get comfortable in my chair. All right, go.
Okay. So by this point, I think I was 14. Yeah, I was 14. And my dad had gone off his medication, and things were as bad as they could possibly be. Like, things are becoming violent now, and I was really starting to struggle mentally because I was also, this whole entire time, I'm getting bullied at school really bad for things that are going on. So, anyways, and I was already in an abusive relationship. Surprise, surprise. So, anyways, I spent a lot of time sleeping is what I'm getting at because I was severely depressed. And I remember, clear as day, the day that I became possessed, and I think it stayed attached until I was 23. So I had taken a nap, and I remember hearing this deep, like, male voice in my ear as I was falling asleep, and I don't remember what it said, but I felt this rush of rage come over me. And this is the first time. And when I woke up, I was no longer in my body. I was watching from afar. So it was like an out-of-body experience. But I remember feeling that this voice started talking really loud, and it said I had to kill my parents. Now, from a psychological standpoint, you could argue that, oh, she was just so angry. It was repressed anger making her do this. No, I have that as well. I know what that is. This was not that. It told me to go downstairs and to grab a butcher knife because all the guns at this point, the house was full of guns, were locked up. Good thing. And it just kept getting louder and louder and louder. Like, I'm hearing it in my head, but I'm also watching from afar, and I'm just completely numb. I can't feel anything, and it's like something else is guiding my body. And the only thing that ended up snapping me out of it, thank God, was one of my dogs. Like, the dog sensed that something was wrong, and she came running up to me, and she started barking, like going nuts. And, like, I don't know what it did, but all of a sudden I was back in my body, and I was crying. It was so terrifying. And the voice was gone. And this would proceed to happen about 2 more times. There was another point where I woke up in the middle of the night. And by this point, I was sleeping with a knife under my pillow because my dad was so erratic and violent that you had to protect yourself. And it would always be about 3 to 4 o'clock in the morning, he'd start getting like this. So I remember it was that same experience, not being inside my body, but this voice, it was very, very loud, and it was telling me, you must kill him now. You must end this. You must kill him. And again, I know what repressed anger is. That's not what this was. it's like a robot. I watched myself grab the knife from under my pillow and I walked over to him. I walked into their room and I was standing there with the knife raised right above his chest. And I was fighting myself. Like I was shaking. I was fighting something else to keep from stabbing down into his chest. And I managed to, I'm screaming inside myself, let go, let go, let go. And I ended up just dropping the knife and running out. And what I didn't remember, and this is what my mom ended up telling me years later, was that in this state, I guess she had woken up. And I had told her I was going to kill her too. And my mother is my best friend. I would never do that to my mother. But in that moment, in that state, being controlled by something else, I was going to do that. And then from there, there's a lot of moments I don't remember. It could be from trauma, it could be from that. But the nightmares just kept getting worse and worse. And I started having these really, really crazy, like afterlife dreams. So I'd dream I die, and it was the most freeing experience. But I'd like float up into nothingness, and then I'd end up on the astral plane, and then I'd have dreams about these children being tortured in houses. It was like watching a TV screen, right? And I'd go in and pick them, and which one I'd want to walk into, and it would be real life. Like I could feel things touching me. It was nuts. And like I said, by this point, my dad's really, really into all the spiritual stuff, and also religious at the same time. So it's like the mix. And he's threatening to kill us a lot. Like it was just a bad situation.
Okay, I need to take a breath a minute. I haven't taken a breath in about 5 minutes. So hang on.
Okay,
guys, you may not believe this, but this is the first time I've heard this. Okay, I'm hearing it in real time, the same as you're hearing it here, and I'm just I have a talk show. I talk for a living, and I ask questions on my talk show, and I'm speechless. I mean, I'm just going, fuck. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't tell many people about this.
Wow. It's just such an, oh my God, just such an incredible and amazing story. If you're not sending this to people that are into the paranormal, what's wrong with you? Because this is wow.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to put it. This is. Give me a minute. Wait a minute, Alexis. Don't rush this, okay? I'm trying to breathe.
Okay.
Here. I'm an old guy.
Okay, I'm gonna take a drink of water.
I'm an old guy. Okay, I gotta. Okay. This is coming in. This is a lot of information hitting me really quick.
Yeah.
And I mean, don't get me wrong. I love this lady. She's another daughter of mine. I mean, that's how much I care for her. And just to hear this story is like, wow. I don't know whether I don't know. I don't know. I just, I either want to hug you or I just sit you down and listen to more. I don't know which one I want to do. It's crazy. This is insane. Please go ahead.
Yeah.
I mean, I am
Okay.
absolutely involved in this right now. It's just that I got to stop you every now and then because I feel myself beginning to pass out because I'm not breathing. So,
ooh,
because
we don't want that. We don't want that.
Yeah, it's just the wow, what a story.
I'm going to write a book one day. Actually, my mother and I are going to co-write it.
If you don't, you're making a huge mistake. And I happen to know 2 professional writers that can help you with that. By the way,
that'd be great because we're going to title it "Living with the Mechanic."
Okay. Well, we'll. So if you need help, we'll get you hooked up. That's no problem.
That would be great. That'd be great. So, okay, now that we have a breather,
yeah.
Where was I at? So I was talking about the possession, and okay, so by this point, we had left, I think, 2 other times because things had just gotten so dangerous, and every time we'd leave, it would follow us. And my mom didn't want to talk about it because she didn't want to give it that attention. But she knew it was there. So, and like the older I get, the more she tells me about her side of things and just how absolutely terrifying and horrifying it was for her. So, for example, um, this is when they were still, sharing a room together, and she would tell me that at about 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, he'd have these fits in his sleep, and she said she could feel the bed being pressed down on his side, like something was like pushing him down into the bed, and he'd go rigid, and he wouldn't start shaking, but he'd just go completely rigid, and he'd start growling like an animal.
Wow.
And then he'd like come to, and then that's when he'd just lose his mind, and he'd follow her all around the house, just screaming at her, and he would wake me up, so then I'd go and protect her, and again, it's like pitch dark in this house. You have one candle lighting this place, and that's even more terrifying. And that's why I'm afraid of the dark as an adult, because I'm not afraid of it's what's in the darkness, because of how much stuff I experienced. And like I said, this started at I'm 5 years old all the way up. So, and like I said, we couldn't keep animals alive. Cats kept dying. And maybe that was my dad. I don't know. I'd hope not. But the plants died all around the property. All the grass did. He's losing his mind, and he had already lost his mind. And the medication would kind of help, but he'd still have those blackout moments that he couldn't remember. And I realized a lot of the times when he was on his medication that it would attack me. I needed something. And so I'm starting to have extremely, extremely dark thoughts by this point, especially the last time we came back, because, I was like, I want to get out of this. So he had created an arsenal of guns. He had gotten his own machine to make bullets. And we didn't realize, because he did it out, there was an annex to the house. It was attached to the house. It was put back in the annex that he was making all these bullets. Like, my mom was aware, I wasn't aware. And when the cops showed up later, they had to send it to the Vienna arsenal. There was so much ammunition that he had created. So, but he'd go out to that annex, and you'd hear him screaming bloody murder, and he couldn't stop. And you go to check on him, and his clothes would be on the floor. And he'd be out in the woods running naked, just screaming and saying it felt like his skin was on fire. And then he'd come to and have no memory of this. And, we were all extremely depressed. And he'd just have these fits that he couldn't remember, and the rage was so bad. It was so terrifying.
Your mind's going to block things out that,
Yeah.
This
it
is
is.
normal. I mean, I've got periods of that in my life where it's just been cut out and I don't remember, No matter how hard I try, I don't remember. I get told those stories, but,
Mm-hmm.
I
So,
don't know.
but, another weird thing, which it makes sense though. We couldn't keep our electronics. Like, we'd get a DVD player, we'd get a TV, and they'd literally go pop, and they'd start smoking.
Wow.
And we couldn't keep them to work.
Now,
Keep them
do you
working.
feel that it was definitely a dark or demonic entity
Yes,
at work here?
yes, yes. And I think that's, and coupled with, obviously my father has mental health issues. Doing the drugs didn't
Well,
help, but I
mental
think
health
what
issues.
happened,
Mental health issues is one thing.
yeah,
I understand that, but if you
this,
have a demonic entity involved in this, then it's not just mental health issues anymore. It
no,
goes
it's not.
way beyond that, way beyond that.
Yes, and I think what kind of triggered a lot of this was when he almost died, when he drowned,
Right.
and because that's when he started using, and just this darkness fell over the house, and it had been there, but it got so much worse, like I said. And then I found out when I was about 3, they went to Chichen and my dad took one of the stones
Oh shit!
from one of the
No
from one
way.
of the sacrificial, yep. So then my mom ends up telling me years later, she's like, I was sitting at the kitchen table at one time. Because my dad became obsessed with pirates, by the way. This was another thing. Yeah, just completely obsessed with pirates. So, and she was like, oh, whatever. It's just another one of his, paranoid obsessions. So she's sitting at the kitchen table, and there was the shadows from the leaves on the wall, and she watched them morph into 3 pirates' faces. They were, I think she said Japanese or something. Like she could distinctly tell what they were. And I guess that was what my dad was obsessed with at that point, was from there. And then she's like, then it just, went back to their normal leaves. She's like, that was crazy watching that happen. And she's like, I started to believe a little bit more then that something really wasn't right back there. Um, and like I said, strange things have happened. Like the radio would turn on and off by itself. It would play really weird music. The animals would go like they didn't like coming into the house after a certain point. At this point, all my friends had stopped coming over because they said it was just too scary there. Um, and and then just my own nightmares constantly. We ended up permanently leaving when I was 17, and whatever attached to me followed me. So,
So you're carrying this entity with you now.
no. So, not quite.
Not
Not
quite.
quite. Like it comes to visit sometimes.
All right. So you've
So,
left the door open.
yeah,
Now this is gonna bleed into what we're going to talk about here in a very few minutes because there's a lot of stuff happening in our future that we're going to talk about. But
yeah.
if okay,
I know there's like so much more to this, but I'm just trying to wrap it. You know what I mean?
I understand, and this is this
Yeah.
almost, and I no, this is not almost. This is going to be a part 2. We're going to do a
Ooh,
second
all
half
right.
to this, okay? Because this
Okay.
is such an in-depth story. Guys, if you're listening to this, you're as fucking blown away as I am, okay? Because I this is the first time I've heard this. And I want the whole story. You've given me half. You're up to
Yes.
what? 11, 12, 13 years old right now.
Uh,
So
14. Yeah, I got
14.
up to about
Okay,
14.
we're up to 14. You're a little
Yeah.
bit older than 14 these days. Not by
Yes.
much, just a couple of
Yeah.
years, but
Yeah.
you're a little
Yeah.
bit older than that. So, we're going to do the other half of this story, guaranteed.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
uh,
Okay.
Alexis, man, I'm exhausted just listening to this story. I mean,
Yeah.
how
Mm.
I don't even know.
I need to get my mom in on this. Is what I need to do for the second one.
Absolutely, I've met your mother. I
Yes.
love your mother. She's
Yeah.
except
She's
driving
great.
at 3 o'clock in the morning trying to get home. That's not.
Yes. Yes. That was terrifying.
She's kind of scary there, but other than that, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely, we're going to do this again. And in fact,
Okay.
I would say let's go ahead and set a date, you and I, when
Okay.
we get off of here, to do a part 2
Okay.
to this. I don't want to wait. I want to follow up as soon as we can on
Okay.
this,
Okay.
because
Maybe even next weekend.
yeah,
Okay.
because this is this this story needs to get out there for sure. This is amazing. I always, and the funny thing is, from the first time I met you, there was something. I mean, I did. Here's the scenario. Okay, this is when I first saw and met Alexis. I'm sitting at this little bitty fucking table in this little burned out shit ass building in Warren, Ohio,
Mm-hmm.
with all my jewelry up there, and she's at the next booth over with all her amazing artwork, and she comes wandering over, hold on. You have on a long dress, okay, and platform shoes. See, I noticed. And you come
Oh my goodness.
you come walking over and you're looking at my stuff and it sudden for no reason it hit me like I know her from somewhere. I've seen her somewhere
Hmm.
before. And we've talked about this many times
Oh
how,
yes, many times.
lives cross, the
Yes.
past lives and the now lives cross paths often and a person and just from the get-go. And I felt
Hmm.
that I knew you from that moment, the first moment I saw you. I'm like, I know her from
Yep.
somewhere, and I don't know where. But we just literally hit it off at that point, and have been friends ever since. Even though you're a block and a half away, and you never see me or see me
Yeah,
later or nothing.
I know. It's crazy.
It's
I
terrible.
know.
It's terrible.
Things will change
Well,
soon.
I'm guilty of the same thing. So, but yeah, that story is just incredible, and we definitely have to hear the rest of it. Now, moving on for the next few
Yeah.
minutes that we've got
Yeah.
left. We have things coming up here at Transcending Veils that are nothing short of amazing. And excuse me, just one second. I'm still fighting this damn cold that I had last time you guys heard me. In October, October 20th to be exact, we are joining forces with Soul Seekers Paranormal. We are traveling to Hinsdale, New York, to go to the Hinsdale house and do a investigation, a ghost hunt. And what we're going to do is probably, I don't know if it's ever been done before. It may have been on TikTok. The Soul Seekers Paranormal are going to be broadcasting live on their channel on TikTok, and Transcending Veils is going to be simultaneously broadcasting live on their channel on TikTok. So you're going to get two different point of views of the same ghost hunt at the same time on the same night, as long as our equipment holds out. So we're going to be joining forces with them. I am really, really excited about this. We've
Yes.
been working with Soul Seekers now for I don't know how long. It's been a couple of years, easy, on doing different shows. You've seen Tanya Steinborn on a few of our podcasts now. Amy Murphy has been on one or two of our broadcasts. But they are Soul Seekers Paranormal, and us. And, that there's going to be a whole lot of goofballs getting together to do this ghost hunt. And it is probably, this place is, how can I put it? I mean, it's one of the most haunted hotspots in North America is the Hinsdale House, okay, in Hinsdale, New York. If you have not heard about it, go out to YouTube, look up the Hinsdale House, and watch the videos on it. There's a zillion videos out there on the Hinsdale House. It is just that crazy at this place. Now, to be fair with you, this is what I'm doing going into this, okay? I have not done any research on what happens within the house. I have not done any research on any of the investigations in the house. The only research that I have done is the property itself and what's gone on around the property to give me a history of what's going on. But the history of the house itself and the hauntings of the house, I do not know. Why? Because I am a firm believer in the power of suggestion. If somebody tells me this is haunted and this is going to happen, my psyche is going to make this happen. I don't want that. I'm going in completely blind on this, other than knowing the history of the area. That's it. So this is going to be fun because this place, I don't know, Alexis, would you say it's like a malevolent spirits that haunt this place?
Yeah. Yes. Like you, I didn't want to like do too much into it, so I just go in blind, like a clean slate.
Right.
Um, but just from what I've heard, I would say yeah, and you can kind of feel it even just talking about it.
It's very
That there's
heavy.
something very heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And
yeah.
I mean, we even, on Facebook Messenger, we started a messenger group about the Hinsdale house between soul seekers and us, so we could, get information back and forth. And no sooner did we start this group than we all started having these fucking weird dreams about the Hinsdale house. And I've never been there. How could I possibly know anything about the house, yet I'm having these weird ass dreams about investigating the Hinsdale house. And it has happened to every single one of us going down the line. We're getting these weird vibes coming from this house, and we've never even been there. It's, I don't know. I mean, I'm going to make a promo. I'm going to put it out there on TikTok. I'm going to put it on Facebook, blah, blah, blah. Just to advertise it. But you're going to hear recordings from both Amy Murphy and Tanya Steinborn. You're going to hear recordings from Alexis. You're going to hear recordings from me. You're going to hear recordings from Otter Moon about our feelings, just our gut feelings about the Hinsdale house. And there's none of it is good. I mean, this is really weird. It's like none of it's good. We don't have.
No, there's like a pit in my stomach.
Yeah, there's this ominous feeling hanging
Maybe we
over us
shouldn't.
that we're going into this thing, and I'm not saying I'm scared. Okay, come on, guys. I'm 68 years old. There's very few things that scare me in life anymore, but I have this. I don't know, this weird vibe going into it that's not a good vibe, It's just this weird, heavy, like you said, heavy feeling, going into it. And we're going to be broadcasting live. So if you've got TikTok, if you see us on TikTok, please join in our live. You can catch it on the Transcending Veils page. You can catch it on the Soul Seekers Paranormal page. Either one. You're just going to get two different views, or bring them both up at the same time and watch both of us, because you're getting two different views. And by the way, Amy Murphy already told me that when she gets scared, she farts a lot. Just to give you the heads up.
Okay, so do I.
Oh, great. I'm doomed. They're right there. No wonder I've got a heavy feeling around me, right? But
we'll feel lighter though.
but you guys can tune in, and if the equipment's working, I'm not guaranteeing it's going to work. I don't make any guarantees on that. But if we can get a live going, we're going to get a live going. If not, tune in to our podcast, because probably the months of November and December are going to be nothing but our investigations at the Hinsdale house. We're going to be there all night long. So, we're going to see what we're going to see. It's going to be interesting. I'm not going to say fun. Yeah, I mean the Ohio Reformatory was fun. We had a really good time. I mean, I had a blast.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not feeling that way about this place, Alexis. I'm just not.
No, and like a part of me, like, this is where I get really nervous, is because it's like, well, what if this is something telling us, like, what if we get into an accident on the way there? Like, what if that's this feeling? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, maybe it's not even the house.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
And it's like I was talking to Tanya and Amy a couple of weeks ago, and they were saying how terrified they were to investigate this place. I'm going, that's not a good thing to be, because if there's some kind of bad energy in there, or weird, I don't know, entity in there, they're going to pick up on you being afraid, and they're going to attach to that.
Yes.
That's not a good thing to be. And they're like, we can't help it. That's just, it's just got that heavy vibe to it. And I don't know, man. This was going to be this is going to be interesting. This is going to be really interesting. I have a feeling I'm going to get farted on a lot. You know, Amy already told me. She said any weird shit goes down, I'm on you like glue. You know, so I'm like one of the cameraman. Their cameraman is a guy, and then there's me, and that's the only two guys that are going to be in this place. It's going to be all the rest
boy.
of the women. So we figure what we'll do. Audra is planning to go. And we figure what we'll do if we have any doubt, we're going to throw Audra in first because she's all into the malevolent spirit shit. So we're going to throw her in first. We're going to sacrifice her, and then we're going to go in afterwards. Because after she's done with that spirit, the spirit's going to be sitting over in the corner like smoking a cigarette, you know. All right, I'm done. All right, yeah, we're sick at transcending veils. We're twisted indeed, but that's just how we are. Alexis, thank you, dear, for
Absolutely
stepping up and sharing the first half of this amazing story, because it is truly incredible. And honestly, if there's anybody else out there who's experienced anything like this in their lives, who've gone through anything like this in their lives, please contact us. We would love to talk to you. We'll have you on the show.
Because it's still going on to this day.
It's going on. It's non-stop. It has not stopped.
No.
We would love to have you on the show to talk about this. Alexis would love to talk to you about this.
Yes.
I would love to talk to you about this. I'm just really... I'm breathless. I really am. It is just such an incredible story. And we're only halfway through. We're up to you being 14 years old. And you're...
I think 15 or 16.
All right,
yeah.
We're up to you 15 or 16.
Yeah.
And you're what, like 17 or 18 now? Is that right?
17 or 18 now. I had a couple,
a little higher. Okay.
Yeah.
A little higher. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Not much though. Not much. I'm 104 years old, so everybody's a kid to me. But anyway, with that, we're gonna cut it loose, Guy. Thank you for tuning in, Alexis.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for sharing your story. It is. I know how hard it can be to talk about things like that in your personal life.
Oh yeah.
The hardest thing in the world.
Can be.
The hardest thing in the world is opening up and opening up and being yourself. Believe me, I know that. I went through that recently, as you know.
Yes.
And it takes a lot of courage and a lot of strength to do that, and I appreciate you stepping up and doing just that. And we are going to get to part 2, our next episode. So you're going to get a couple of them real quick before we get into the ghost hunt season. But we're going to hear the rest of this story for sure. All right?
Yes, and I'm definitely going to get my mom's side too.
Please.
Because that's even... Woo.
Please get Mom on. I would love to see Mom again. As long as she's not driving, we're good.
Yeah, no.
That's a whole nother story, guys. We're gonna get into that in another episode about Mom driving back from the ghost hunt. That was
Oh God.
Yeah, we almost became ghosts ourselves that night.
Yes, we did.
But
she makes jokes about it now.
Bless her heart. We're halfway home and she's driving down the highway at 75 miles an hour and it's fucking raining and shit. She's going, I can't see a thing. And I'm like, what?
Well, it's because her eyes were swelling shut because she had an allergic reaction there.
And,
so that's why.
Alexis is going, pull over.
Let me drive. Please let me drive.
Oh, that was hilarious. So much fun. So many good stories. That's awesome. That's awesome. Anyway, guys, we're going to let you go. Thank you for tuning into this episode of the story of Alexis on Transcending Veils. And get part 2 here coming up real quick, guys. Alexis, once again, thank you. I think I said that already, but I'll say it again.
Yes.
Thank you, dear. I appreciate you. And as always,
Absolutely.
guys, keep it spooky. Good night, guys.
Good night.
All right, guys, you know the deal. If you have any questions, comments, or ideas for future episodes, feel free to email us at transcendingveils@gmail.com. Also, be sure to follow Transcending Veils on social media platforms such as TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And don't be afraid to swing by D.E. Riley and myself's personal Instagrams at NotReallyWilly and at AudraMoon_. We got some spooky stuff going on there too. So until the next episode, can't wait to hear from you guys.